ago, maybe a year ago, I was probably one of the most cynical, anti-voting complainers that you might have ever known. And if somebody would have said that tonight I would be getting up and speaking at a political rally, I would have thought that would be possible. Many of you have probably been to the Missouri State Capitol building here in Jefferson City. And as you walk into the rotunda, there etched in stone is righteousness exalteth a nation. And as I have pondered that, many of the things I'm going to share tonight probably you've already heard. Maybe numerous times, especially in this election year, you hear people rehearse certain items of history. But I think it's good that we rehearse them over and over again. You know why? Because we forget. And I believe many Americans have forgotten that small band of religiously persecuted Englishmen and women that left in 1620. They risked death and poverty and travail just so that they could worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own conscience. Many Americans have forgotten. And once they finally arrived, they made a compact. Many of you have probably heard of that, the Mayflower Compact. And believer and unbeliever alike committed to live by laws, these moral absolutes, because only a free people, or people can only be free if they live by these laws. Freedom is only meant for those that can live, that can govern themselves. I think America has forgotten. I think many Americans, have forgotten that the tyranny that had forced our forefathers, the founding fathers, to then declare independence from Great Britain, from the king. You probably all heard this, right? Maybe even hundreds of times in the last few months. But how soon we forget. Many Americans have forgotten that they daily called upon God. And after prevailing over the most powerful military in the world at the time, they did not give credit to their intellect. They did not give credit to their natural resources. But they set aside a day for prayer and fasting to give thanksgiving to the providential hand of God that brought them through. Many Americans have forgotten it. Also in the rotunda, there in the Missouri State Capitol, anybody know what's on the other side? God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget. And you know, as I've considered that over this last year or so, and my armchair activism, you know, my cynicism and thinking it's all tied up. There's no reason even to go to the polls. That's left up to people with big money and big ideas, smarter than us. I consider what was penned in the Declaration of Independence, and that is these truths. We hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. And among these are life. Again, you've probably heard this 100 times, right? We've been very involved in the pro-life movement these last few months. Because what I came to realize is that 4,000 Americans are dying every day in this country, being slaughtered in the wind. And we have got to do something. We have got to do something, because God will not countenance that forever. He will hold us accountable for each and every vote, and who it is that we uphold with that vote. So, I'm sorry if this seems like a sermon, but I don't know how to do anything else. When I was in boot camp, I like to tell this story. When I was in boot camp, there was this one morning, you gotta fold up you gotta iron everything, you gotta fold up this right, you put it in your locker. When you have an inspection, it's just gotta be so. And there was one morning we were all running late, they were rushing us to breakfast, and I had taken a t-shirt and hung it and I hid it. I didn't fold it up, I hid it. Now just bear with me, this little story. And I hid this, and when we got back from breakfast, the company commanders were there in the barracks, and there was this big mound of stuff in the middle of the barracks. And we were in trouble. I mean, you could tell we were in trouble. This was our stuff laying out there. And after the company commander cycling through, yelling at everybody, the first thing he grabs up, guess what? Your name's on everything. He grabs his teeth. Bishop! Who is Bishop? This is 4 weeks into boot camp. What I realized is two things I realized there. I must be doing pretty good because I've gotten 4 weeks of this and my company commander doesn't even know my name. Aside from, don't procrastinate. Do what you need to do today. We do not have time. Time is running out. And so when I have sought after candidates, let's say, honorable men of good report, I think that I have found such a man, Mr. Todd Akin. A man that has not forgotten. A man that has not forgotten that righteousness is the result of the nation. It is not military might or intellect or our wealth, but that righteousness exalts the nation. And I think that he will continue to remind us and to cry out, God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. I'd like to introduce the next senator for the state of Missouri, Mr. Todd Akin. One other thing, I do this all the time when I get up to speak, I forget to say something. The reason I even brought up the thing about the t-shirt is I was looking for a man who did not do exactly what the company commander said. Because Barack Obama knows his name, doesn't he? We've heard him utter his name. So, appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. The way these PA systems work, I got to keep the microphone back behind where the speaker is. Is it helpful for me to use the PA system? Is that a little bit better? Does that work okay? Good. Good. It's okay. I can stand here. I'm pretty close to most people, and if you can hear okay, that's good. We're just less than a week away from the primary vote here. And I just wanted to come by and update you on a few things. And first thing is I want to say thank you. There's some people here who have been doing some serious work for freedom and for patriotism, and starting with the beautiful music and everything else that's going on. I want to say thank you to all of you people. And so that's first thing off. There may be a few people here who have not been here before. I think we started our campaign on this location with hot dogs and potato salad, and I'm trying to remember exactly what was the date. Do you remember that offhand? When did we? May 17th. Okay, my dear wife Luli, keeping her husband straight. Thank you, Luli. Okay, so some of you met here, and I think even one of our trackers was here. Were you here? Oh no, that was a Freudian mistake. Okay, she's the mean tracker. Okay, she's not, but these guys are really nice. Yeah. Hey. She was, okay. Hey. Okay, I don't want to get sidetracked. Here's the thing. Our campaign from that very beginning day, we tried to stay on one basic idea, and that is the importance of the fact that our nation's founded on certain principles. And I believe that the thing that I have to offer in this race is that my voting record is driven by principle and not politics. Now it happens that I'm rated the most conservative congressman in the state, but that's the reason for that is because I've tried to stay on principle. Now, in a race like this, ever since Ronald Reagan came along, everybody that runs says, that's a Republican, says, I'm a conservative. How hard is it to say I'm a conservative? Not very hard to say it. It's a different thing when you're in the U.S. Congress to live it. And what I believe I have to offer is the fact that I have that proven conservative record, and I believe that a proven record beats talk and promises. Now, let me just develop that idea just a teeny bit. The very first vote that I had was a vote called No Child Left Behind. It was President Bush's or Laura's #1 first bill, H.R. 1. And I'm a brand new congressman, 2001, brand new president, and here comes this bill. It's going to increase the power of the Department of Education to help tell everybody how to run schools. So what's the principle? I believe the principle of education is local control. Very local. You get parents that love a kid and teachers, and they're all involved, you're going to get good education out of that mix. And so I believe in local control. And I think one of the things that's destructive to that is a bunch of bureaucrats telling you how to do everything. So I'm the only congressman in Missouri who voted against No Child Left Behind. Now right now everybody says it was a lousy bill, okay, but I'm the only one that voted no on it. Now do you think that's the best way to be a good political guy and make friends with a brand new president, or with your own party, see? My point is, having a conservative record is something that comes at a price, okay? And you make friends and enemies when you do that. Give you another example. We had a thing called the Wall Street bailout, or TARP, okay? And that was something that was being pushed by Republican presidents. We had a legitimate problem. A lot of times we pass bills, there's no real problem. We pretend like there's a problem to do what we want. But this wasn't one of those things. This is a legitimate problem. The question was this bill right to get done what had to get done? I feel like I'm on the Mayflower about to sail away here. I think I'm okay, of course. So, one of my biggest contributors called me up and said, Akin, you're going to vote for this thing. If you don't vote for this thing, we're never going to talk to you again. And it almost felt like we were getting divorced, you know. And I didn't vote for it because I didn't think we needed to spend $700 billion that we didn't have buying Goldman Sachs back at double book value. Now that wasn't a vote with my own party, but I felt like my party had departed. And you know, the president had a few choice words for me at a big fundraiser that evening in St. Louis. So these things come at a price. But my point is, it's simple enough to say something on the campaign trail. It's different to be there and to be steady and true. So that's the way I've tried to conduct things as I've been a congressman these years. Now, the question is, are you going to continue that idea of principle when you run a Senate campaign? Because I believe we should be consistent. If we say we want to stand in principle, we try to do that. And I took a good look at about all through these presidential primaries, as all these people tore each other to pieces at the great glee of the liberal media. And I'm thinking, I don't think it's really that constructive to always say negative stuff about everybody else. And the reason I'm running for Senate is because I believe America is in a lot of trouble right now, and this is a really serious thing. And somehow it seems to me that when you sling lots of mud, you're almost saying that this is just politics as usual. You see, it seems like to me, America is in a crisis, and what we should be asking for anybody who wants your vote, we should be asking people, give us an understanding of what's unique about America, what's the principle it's founded on, Where do we need to be going? Give me a sense of vision of who you are and how we're going to fix the problem. Don't give me cheap political one-liners and a mud job. And that's the way we've run our campaign. Now, a lot of people say that's really stupid. But see, I believe that we need to be talking about things that are good and true and right, and not tempting ourselves to round the corners on half-truths to try and push somebody down to raise yourself up. So that's the way we run the campaign. We just strictly got Huckabee, done some television ads saying Akin's a good guy. Second Huckabee television ad, don't believe all the negative stuff, Akin's a good guy. And we've got a last one, and I apologize to you here, these things you won't be seeing on your broadcast television because we can't afford the Kansas City broadcast television is brutally high because we're buying half of the state of Kansas with it. Okay? So these are running in other parts of the state, but you're not seeing them. But if you want to, go to akin.org. And our last ad is the story. I think people like a good story. This is a true story, and I'll tell you a little bit how it happened. And it was a number of years ago. I was at Camp Lejeune visiting my son who's a Marine. It's a Marine base. And they have these second lieutenant houses. They're kind of small, Second World War type houses that these guys live in. And the one next door to the one we were visiting that had my son there was a guy living in there who was a lieutenant, and he was best friends with my son who'd gone to the Naval Academy. So I wanted to go over and say hello to John Dolby. So I went over to the front door, about to go knock on it. The door swings open. John Dolby, really trim, gung-ho Marine, puts his hand out, shakes hands, says, Congressman Akin, thank you for saving my life. Well, I felt great, but I couldn't remember how it saved his life. So he had to develop that idea a little for me. He said, well, do you remember when you went to Fallujah last year, or the year before last, I don't remember the timing on it, and there was a problem over there that the Pentagon had been shipping these up-armored Humvees all over Iraq, but they hadn't gotten enough of them to where the fighting was. So they're sending up-armored Humvees, that's the one with the heavy armor on the side. They're sending them to places where there isn't any conflict. So by making some discreet inquiries, as in with the tow, to the Pentagon, we readjusted the shipment schedule, and all of a sudden Fallujah Marines had up-armored Humvees. Well, it turns out not too long after that, he's riding along in this Humvee. An IED goes off outside of his Humvee, and it totally destroys the Humvee. But it's got that heavy, thick steel on it, and he walked away from the thing. And it was because we had made that shift in the armor. So the ad goes, it starts off with, kaboom, big ball of fire over it, and a woman's voice saying, essentially, the armor on our Humvees was not enough, and our soldiers are getting killed. And then it shows a picture of me, actually the time, this is actually at the same time this is going on, a picture of me and my son in Fallujah, saying Congressman Akin came to Fallujah, talked to the military leadership, found out about a problem, and sent these more up-armored Humvees. And then she goes on to say something to the effect that, some people call the up armor an earmark, which it was technically an earmark. Some people call it an earmark, but I want you to remember that earmark saved my husband's life. And then the ad finishes with, because the soldiers can't be involved in politics, so you couldn't see his face, but you see him in silhouette. His daughter wraps her arms around his neck, the other little daughter holding her hand, and the three of them sort of walk into the sunset. And at the very last of the frame, you see these little fingers on his shoulder kind of going like this, So this isn't a negative ad. This is the kind of thing that makes you feel like America is a good place, and we need to do the right thing. So anyway, that's just an example. You may want to know who's going to win the primary. If you can find out, let me know, would you please? Let me tell you why I'm really excited about this. I'm excited because of the fact that we're giving people a legitimate choice, okay? We started out a positive campaign. I've stood on principle. You can look at my voting record. People are throwing mud at us. We've got a solution to that. We've got a place called Mud Central on our website. Big picture of mud with cracks in it, okay? And you go on there if you want to get the details of what people are saying. Look it up if you want to. But the other thing you can do is just check all these congressional ratings. You see Congressman Akin is one of the most conservative members of Congress and the most conservative guy in the state of Missouri. That's what I have to offer. We're running a clean campaign. Everywhere I talk, I conclude by trying to do what I think you should demand of anybody who's running from office, particularly a high office, okay? And that's, as I said, what's this country all about? Now here's my best shot. There were people that came to this country with a unique vision that there was a creator, that is God, gave us life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. No other nation was founded on that idea. That's what I believe has made this country unique. You don't think this country is unique? Don't forget something about our past. We fought a couple of major world wars, and we could have taken over the whole world, and we didn't take over an inch of any geography. And then we taxed ourselves and we rebuilt our enemies. How many times has that ever happened in history? We're a unique country. Have the oldest written constitution of any nation in the world. When there's a tsunami or an earthquake, what do you expect to see? You see in the red, white, and blue going and helping people out. Because that's the kind of people we are. You see the footage, all these newspaper reporters looking at the Marines in the middle of a battle in Iraq. This is some footage that Ollie North has. And there's this Iraqi soldier that's been hit. And the bullets are flying all over. This U.S. Marine goes and picks this Iraqi soldier up. He's in bad shape. And he's marching past the camera. And the guy with the camera says, "That's one of the Iraqis. Why are you rescuing him?" He says, the Marine just says in a tone of some disgust to the cameraman, "Because that's the kind of people we are." That's the kind of people we are in America. We're here based on some principles. We believe in life. We believe that life is the foundation of liberty. If you don't have life, all the other things don't make much difference, do they? Liberty, the ability to speak as you choose, and to own the things that you earn. And then that unique one, that special little term, pursuit of happiness. The idea that you're called to, with all of your heart and strength and with great courage, to pursue the dream that God puts in all of our hearts. Each of you is different. Each of you is created for a different purpose and a different dream. But this country is about freedom to allow you to do whatever you feel called to do. If you're upright here today and you're taking nourishment, that means God's got something for you to do. And that's what makes life exciting. You know, this is a pursuit of happiness. No guarantee of happiness, but there's something I've observed as a guy who's getting a little bit older, and that is, you find that the people who actually are happy are the ones who've taken the risk to look inside their hearts and do the best they can and try to be really good at doing something that helps other people. And they set goals, and they fall down, they get back up, and they keep working toward the goal. And pretty soon they say, "Hey, this is working pretty well." Some of them make a lot of money, some of them do a lot of good in a lot of different ways. And that's how people pursue happiness. And so where are we today? Well, this is what I'd like to close and encourage you in this regard. If you go back, as I happen to have an interest in the beginning of our country, you can find that there are times when the vision of a nation founded on the idea that God gave us life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that vision seems dim. It seemed like these were times when there was a question whether America could even continue. But you know, what you see in each of those instances, you see great patriots turning to God and trusting Him, and then putting everything on the line. That means they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know who was going to win the race. But they trusted Him, and they did what they believed in their hearts was the right thing to do. And you know what they did after that? They rekindled freedom's flame. And you know what? That is our duty, the same thing. And now is our time. We are ones to rekindle freedom's flame, and we should be thankful to God that we live at a time like this when America is counting on us to do these things. And that's why I'm so happy about this campaign, because we're doing just that same pattern. trusting God, putting everything on the line as you were all doing. And we're just going to see the author of all history. What's he going to write? I think it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And I want to just thank you all so much for giving me a chance to chat with you, being part of things here. I see some watermelons over there. I'm hoping those get thumped a little bit. But we'll do a couple of questions or answers or whatever. No questions. Okay, good. Right? Yeah.
As I talk to people express what I think of you say, yeah, but it's good for NDAA. And I looked at NDAA and I understand that what they think happens isn't really what it says, but I
Sure. Let's do that. There are about maybe 2 or 3 things that people are sort of pitching up, saying, Akin, he's pretty conservative, but he's strayed from the path a couple of times. Okay. First thing off, if you get that from anybody, tell them to go to Mud Central. Okay, go to Mud Central because we explain those things. But I'll do it for you, okay? Here's the thing. NDAA, what that means is the entire bill that funds all of national defense. Okay, so this is the defense funding. Every year we pass one of those for the Pentagon and for all the people that are troops and all the things we do in the Army and Air Force and Navy. Okay? The bill is passed in the Senate and the House. The Senate version came across. A lot of Tea Party people take a good look at that bill and they're going, we're worried that this may give Obama authority to bring troops in and arrest Americans and detain them for long periods of time. Okay, so that was their concern. They should have read it closer because it also legalized bestiality. The Senate gets a little weird. Okay, so that was the Senate version. So we're going, because I'm with a whole bunch of other different people that are working on fighting Obamacare, and a lot of Tea Party connections, and they're saying, hey, watch out for this. Well, I'm on the House committee side. So we take a look and say, we'll fix this deal pretty good. We're going to put 2 specific sentences to double it up and say, look, there's nothing in this that says you can take U.S. troops and arrest U.S. citizens, okay? Now that is available on the MUD page, or if you want to go to my federal website and look up NDAA, they have the language right there so you can read it through. Now, a bunch of people, some Tea Party people said, that's not good enough. We still think you want to go arresting people and holding them in jail forever. And so they were sort of mad at us for this vote, okay? So this year we said, okay, we're really going to fix it this time. So we took literally the language out of the U.S. Constitution on habeas corpus, and we plugged it right into the bill this year, and that's what we passed out of the Armed Services Committee. Now, whether it gets through the Senate, I don't know what, okay? But we also said that supersedes the language from this is a 2013, supersedes 2012, okay? But now, let's just say we hadn't even done that. The fact is that the U.S. Constitution gives you habeas corpus rights that the military can't arrest you and hold you. They just can't do it. That's the highest law in the land, is the U.S. Constitution. Should we sign bills that violate the Constitution? Absolutely not. And if I thought it did, I'd say basically you got no military budget until you get it straight. But we did have this thing fixed, and if you read the actual language, but tell them to go either to my House website and just look up NDA, or the Akin.org campaign. We got it in both, explaining it on both, okay? So now, is it possible that U.S. troops could come around and arrest American citizens? That could happen, but it's not going to happen because of that bill, okay? I mean, I'm not saying it can happen legally, but then again, we've got a government that's not paying too much attention to law or Constitution. So, but in this particular case, that happens, it's not because of this. The other thing is the Supreme Court actually has been very strong on habeas corpus, granting habeas corpus rights to terrorists that are not U.S. citizens that are in Guantanamo. So, if anything, we may be erring too much on the side of, I don't know that habeas corpus is something that usually applies to U.S. citizens. To give it to a terrorist, I'm not so sure that's a great idea. But anyway, we've been very strong on that. So that's what, there are usually 2 or 3 questions that people ask. And that's, yeah, Luli.
Could you explain earmarks versus support for groceries. Can you explain that whole issue?
Who sent you over to work for Bruner anyway?
I know that people are going to be having that same
Sure. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about it. Look, here's the deal on earmarks. Earmarks, as most of us think about them, are intolerable. They're terrible, and they're bad, and they're awful, okay? So what are they? They're things that are done in the dark of night, where some legislator is slipping something in a conference committee that nobody knows it's in there, and then they bring it to the floor and try and rush it through with a quick vote. Now, when Jan was working as a state rep, we have laws in Missouri that you can't do that, okay? But the federal government doesn't have as good a laws as the state of Missouri. So I'm against that. We've tried actually to change the laws like what we had. Jen, you remember you can't exceed the differences on a conference? If we just did that federally, you'd get rid of 99% of the bad earmarks, because that was the bad stuff. But the trouble is that term is never defined very well. And people want to apply earmark to every last amendment that some congressman wants to make. And I'm a conservative. What that means is I stick with the U.S. Constitution, and I'm not going to allow Obama to take our gasoline tax from Missouri, give it to other states. I'm not going to allow him to take our taxpayer dollars from Missouri and give it to Illinois or California to bail them out because they haven't run their state the right way. And I'm not going to give carte blanche to Obama and his administrative agencies to spend our taxpayer dollars without allowing congressmen to have input in what's going on. That's called Article 1 of the Constitution. And so some people who are, I think, not defining earmarks very closely are basically reducing the influence of Congress, and it's exactly the wrong thing to do because these administrative agencies are destroying our country. They're destroying companies, and there needs to be better oversight, and if we don't have control of the budget, then they're going to run even more amok. So that's kind of the, I don't mean to be too theoretical, but that's kind of the logic of it. It's one of these things, you better define your terms, and the type of things that are really earmarks are terrible, and that should just be gotten rid of. And the simple, let me give you a quick, you can't do this in 30 seconds. Let me give you an example of the way it was. Let's say Jan is, she's state rep, and let's say they promoted me to be senator in the state of Missouri. Jan's got, for the picnic tonight, $50 worth of hot dogs in the budget. You're going to have to do some eating. I, as a senator, being a little more, I put $100 in for hot dogs. Now we've gone, all this is passed through the Senate and through the House. We go to conference and she and I sit down together, and according to Missouri rules, when we come out of conference, she's going to propose something to the House, I'm going to propose something to the Senate, and it can't be 49, because that's less than 50, and it can't be 101, it has to be between the two. So somewhere between 50 and 100, that's how many bucks we're putting in for hot dogs. Now you take it to the U.S. government, let's tell you how it works then. We sit down, $50 for hot dogs, $100 for hot dogs, and we come out $10,000 for T-bone steaks and caviar. And that's the way the federal government works. That needs to be changed. Yeah, good. Thanks. Oh, I think we've got another treat in store. Thanks so much. I will be around here having a few watermelon pieces with you, and thanks for coming out. God bless you all.